Yesterday, after threats from Trump's FCC chair, ABC yanked Kimmel off the air indefinitely. That is blatant censorship. And it always starts small. You know, remember like in week 1 of his presidency, Gulf of America. Call it Gulf of America. Sure, seems harmless, but with an autocrat, you cannot give an inch. And if ABC thinks that this is going to satisfy the regime, they are woefully naive. And
Trump canceling Jimmy Kimmel's show is like a magician sawing off his own leg and calling it an encore. It's petty politics disguised as strength, the same as flipping a Monopoly board just because you landed on Park Place. Stephen Colbert jumps on this tantrum and rips into Trump's fragile empire, pointing out how absurd it is that a president who can't handle late-night jokes is suddenly micromanaging TV schedules as if democracy were just primetime programming.
Nation folk, America is facing perhaps its greatest crisis in 249 years. You see, people are saying things that hurt Donald Trump's feelings. Now, usually, ladies and gentlemen, usually in the TV biz, if people are upset with you over something that you've said or done, the eyeballs and the advertising go somewhere else. That's called capitalism. But in this ABC case, the FCC had no choice but to slap down the invisible hand of the market. Now, you might think,
Colbert wastes no time turning the move into comedy gold, because that's exactly what it is. Trump's obsession with silencing Kimmel doesn't make him look powerful, it makes him look like a hall monitor tattling on a kid with better comebacks. The harder he tries to erase ridicule, the more ridiculous he looks. Colbert paints him as a leader whose idea of governance feels like a never-ending YouTube comment war.
If ABC thinks that this is going to satisfy the regime, they are woefully naive. And clearly, they've never read the children's book, If You Give a Mouse a Kimmel. And to Jimmy, just let me say, I stand with you and your staff 100%. And also, you couldn't let me enjoy this for like 1 week. Just come on.
This isn't about television, it's about ego. By targeting Kimmel, Trump revealed just how thin his presidential skin really is. Colbert underscores the absurdity. A man trusted with nuclear codes is spending energy plotting revenge against a comedian. Instead of tackling inflation, healthcare, or foreign policy, Trump is stuck in a loop of vendettas, chasing after punchlines as though they were national security threats.
But in this ABC case, the FCC had no choice but to slap down the invisible hand of the market. Now, you might think the Constitution coddlers out there argue that Americans are born with certain God-given rights, like life and liberty. And of course, the pursuit of happiness. But what about the pursuit of Donald Trump's happiness?
The funniest part? Canceling Kimmel backfires spectacularly. Instead of silencing mockery, it amplifies it. Colbert shows how Trump has perfected the art of making the very things he wants buried go viral. The cancellation becomes free advertising, proof that trying to kill a joke only turns you into one. Colbert delights in being ringmaster of this self-inflicted circus.
Whims of the president in order to ensure their merger goes through? Has that ever happened before? And what's that? What? I can't. What? Oh, I'm being told not to answer that question. Further coincidentally, Carr has even more leverage over the network because Disney, which owns ABC, also needs the Trump administration's green light for ESPN's deal to buy the NFL network. Yes, everything is about corporate relationships. It's hard to keep track, but remember, ABC is owned by Disney, which also owns Pixar, which is trying to merge with Twizzlers Pull and Peel, who make the material that Lockheed Martin uses for the O-rings for their Triton II missiles that the Defense Department commissions with the cash it got from its leveraged buyout of Claire's. Okay, Anyway, shortly after Carr makes his statements about ABC, Kimmel gets yanked off the air. This decision came after senior executives at ABC, Disney, and affiliates convened emergency meetings during which multiple execs felt that Kimmel had not actually said anything over the line, but the threat of Trump administration retaliation loomed. As one source at ABC put it,
Colbert turns Trump's presidency into a running gag where the punchline writes itself. A leader who boasts about toughness crumbles under satire, treating jokes like existential threats. Every rant, grudge, and meltdown becomes a case study in insecurity. Colbert doesn't even have to invent material. Trump hands it to him daily, wrapped in the flimsy packaging of presidential authority.
it's true, the words Donald Trump aren't in the Constitution. But, ladies and gentlemen, I can say they are because I have freedom of speech. So, how do you balance your rights with your duty not to make the commander-in-chief fill his depends with tears? Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, it's shockingly simple. Here. Observe.
Trump's vendetta against late-night comedians exposes his desperate need to be liked. Colbert skewers this obsession, mocking the way Trump treats applause like oxygen and approval ratings like beauty contests. Whenever a monologue cuts too deep, he transforms into the world's most powerful heckler. Instead of looking strong, he comes off like fragile glassware in an earthquake. For Colbert, it's not leadership, it's petty retaliation dressed up as power.
Ladies and gentlemen, we live in unsettling times with rising autocracy targeting America's most vulnerable talk show hosts. But there is a way for us folks on TV to keep ourselves safe. I assume, I wouldn't know, but my network is trying to make sure they do not run afoul of Brendan Carr's FCC. As part of the settlement with Donald Trump this summer, CBS recently hired a conservative policy veteran to be their ombudsman.
As Trump struggles to demand respect, comedy keeps popping his balloon. Colbert thrives on the absurd contrast, a man with immense power undone by small insecurities. Canceling Kimmel while global issues spiral out of control exposes Trump as less of a statesman and more of a sulking contestant in a never-ending roast battle. Every attempt to erase laughter only makes the laughter louder.
Seemed like marching orders, and right after that podcast, there was an immediate reaction from Nexstar, which is a local affiliate media group that owns 32 ABC stations, and not as I thought how really drunk guys pronounce NASCAR. Nexstar said it strongly objected to recent comments made by Mr. Kimmel and would preempt the series for the immediate future. Coincidentally, Nexstar has a major merger coming up before the Trump administration. So a company apparently capitulating to the whims of the president in order to ensure their merger goes through? Has that ever happened before?
Colbert's brilliance lies in contrast. Trump calls censorship strength. Colbert calls it stage fright. Trump frames himself as decisive. Colbert shows desperation. The audience doesn't just laugh, they see the truth more clearly through the absurdity. Comedy doesn't weaken late night, it strengthens it. By trying to suppress jokes, Trump accidentally fuels them, proving that satire grows sharper under censorship.
The next 10 months, the gloves are off. I can finally speak unvarnished truth to power and say what I really think about Donald Trump, starting right now. I don't care for him.
Trump treated comedy like a nuisance instead of an institution. Late night isn't disposable entertainment, it's a cultural courtroom where arrogance gets put on trial. By targeting Kimmel, Trump only invited harsher judgment. Colbert turned the cancellation into a rallying cry, showing that when one voice is silenced, 10 more rise in its place. Humor thrives on chaos, the one arena where Trump has no control.
Socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18.
Okay, that's a slam dunk. Just say no. Okay, take it away, Jeffrey.
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights.
Wow.
Colbert made sure Trump's efforts to erase ridicule only etched it deeper into memory. What Trump thought was censorship became amplification. In the digital age, a cancelled show never disappears, it multiplies in memes, clips, and punchlines. Trump wanted to erase Kimmel, but instead he spotlighted his own fragility. Colbert turned that fragility into a permanent joke.
With those numbers, I gotta say, it makes sense we'd be canceled. I get it, guys. And thanks again, okay? Thanks again to the network. In a completely unrelated story, on Friday, Donald Trump posted, "I absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings." How dare you, sir? Would an untalented man be able to compose the following satirical witticism?
Trump hoped people would forget Kimmel, but instead they remembered Trump for trying, and failing, to bury comedy. The very act of suppression guaranteed immortality for the gag. Every attempt to silence critics only fuels sharper mockery. Instead of projecting strength, Trump is remembered as the president who couldn't handle late-night monologues.
In this story is that soon we may be able to see Trump's name in those files for ourselves, because last night, in defiance of the president with a Republican majority, the House Oversight Committee voted to subpoena all documents related to the Jeffrey Epstein case in a vote of 8-2. As in, that's big, yeah. 8-2, as in, boy, I would 8-2 be Trump right now.
Trump's presidency may fade, but the ridicule will outlast every speech, rally, and executive order. Colbert ensures history doesn't remember Trump as a strong leader, but as the man who thought canceling a comedian could cancel laughter. That miscalculation became a defining symbol of weakness. Satire etched his fragility into cultural memory, and no rewriting can erase it.